Hello everyone and welcome to the Hippie Geeks. If you are looking for a delicious meal that will warm you up on a cold night, you have come to the right place. While this dish is delicious, it is definitely not diet friendly. Between the heavy cream and Parmesan cheese, there are quite a few calories hiding in there. While you can reduce the calories by using less heavy cream or substituting with half and half, you will definitely lose some of the flavor. However, we do not cook heavy meals like this very often and would rather enjoy the flavor and ignore the calories. With that said, let's start cooking. Before we actually get started, this is one of those recipes where the amount of each ingredient you use is totally up to you. When Lindsay cooks, she wings it for the most part and cooks by taste. She's being a good sport and kept track of the ingredients that went into this, but if you want to add more or less of anything, feel free to go crazy. The first thing to do is get your pan warmed up and ready. On our not so great cooktop, that means somewhere right around medium, but that will change depending on your pans and cooktop. Once the pan is heated up, pour in some oil, in our case olive oil. You don't need too much, this is just to help saute the next ingredient, onion. We chopped up half of an onion. This one was like a mini tear gas factory and threatened to burn out everybody's eyes. Cutting an onion actually releases enzymes that turn into volatile gases that irritate your eyes and create the tears that onions are known for. There are a few things you can do to reduce those effects and make dealing with onions a much more pleasant experience. First, use a sharp knife. The sharper the blade, the less of the enzyme that is released. Second, cut the onion under cold water. This will allow less enzyme to escape into the air. Finally, chill or freeze the onions before use, as this will again allow less enzyme to be released. You may be able to see a pattern here. Next up is nature's vampire repellent, garlic. We used 6 cloves of garlic. Chop them up fairly small and saute them with the onions for a minute or two. Now, if you are anything like me in my 20s, you may be wondering what a clove of garlic actually is. This is a head of garlic, and when you pull it apart, you find a bunch of smaller slices, which are the actual cloves. Hooray for knowledge! Next up is the namesake of the meal, the mighty tomato. With the amount of food that we make at a time, we use 10 decently sized tomatoes chopped up into bite-sized pieces. This is going to be the most time-consuming part of this meal, as it will take around 20 minutes to saute the tomatoes properly. However, this is the perfect time to add in the spices we are using. Add in 2 teaspoons of oregano, 2 teaspoons of basil, 1 teaspoon of thyme, along with salt and pepper to taste. Once the spices are in, continue cooking the tomatoes until they reach the proper consistency. You don't want them to be too firm, but you also don't want them to be complete mush. Thoroughly mix in all of your spices, and once the tomatoes are ready, you can move on to the next step. Now it is time to add in the heavy cream. The amount you add in will depend on how large of a batch you are making. For our recipe, we added about 3.5 cups. After about 5 minutes, the cream has heated up properly, and it was time to add in the cheese. This is also a good time to start boiling the water for the noodles so that it is ready in time. We had grated up 8 ounces of Parmesan cheese, and it is now added in. Once the cheese has been added, let the sauce simmer for another 10 minutes or so to melt the cheese in. At this point, we are just about done. Once your water comes to a boil, toss in the noodles and get them cooking. This should take somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes, and when they are done, pull them off of the burner and get them drained. Once the noodles are drained, place them in your serving bowl and mix in a couple of scoops of the sauce. This will help to keep your noodles from sticking together. You don't want to add all of the sauce in, as the noodles will begin to absorb the liquid in the sauce, which is something you want to avoid for leftovers. Once you are done with that, transfer the rest of your sauce into its own serving bowl, and you are done. We'd like to serve this meal with a large salad and a loaf of buttered French bread. There it is, our version of tomato Alfredo. If you happen to try this recipe out, I would love to hear what you think about it. Even if you don't try out this recipe, let us know down in the comments what your favorite recipes are. We always love finding new food to try out and would love to hear about yours. If this is your first time here on the Hippie Geeks, it would be wonderful to have you subscribe. This channel is all about helping you unleash your life and create a world that you love. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and check back every week for new content. Thanks again, and we will see you on the next one.